And here at Cinema Hits and Misses, we also want to thank Justine for always being here for us, and also that lovely intro to us. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ryan.
And I'm John.
And you tuned in to WMPG from 8 to 8:30 here on Cinema Hits and Misses. And as Justine says, we're looking for one of the three C's. Either call 207-874-3000, click the donate button on WMPG.org to donate via PayPal, or come by here, 92 Bedford, to drop off your donation. And certainly have a bite to eat. We've been very blessed with the area.
We got a lot of donuts too from Holy Donuts. So if you're a fan of Holy Donuts, we got a lot.
So John and Ryan, what are our movies tonight?
Well, we've got Professor Marston and the Wonder Women.
And we got Battle of the Sexes.
Great. What do you want to start off with?
Let's give Professor Marston a go.
All right.
Full disclaimer, I tried writing this summary. This film was hard to write up a summary for. We begin in the year 1945 in what appears to be a hearing where Professor Marston is being questioned about his comic book character creation known as Wonder Woman. We are then taken back to 1928 to a younger Marston working as a professor at Radcliffe alongside with his wife, Elizabeth, a Harvard graduate who is still trying to get her Ph.D. Marston seeks help with a theory he's been working on called disk theory and asks for any of his students to help. And eventually someone signs up, a young woman named Olive. Marston appears interested in the woman, and Elizabeth doesn't seem to mind much, but she secretly does. As time goes by, and the three get to know each other, a relationship between the three blossoms into something polyamorous. We watch over the course of the film as Marston uses both the women in his life as inspiration for the most popular female superhero to date. And Professor Marston and the Wonder Women was written and directed by Angela Robinson and stars Luke Evans, Rebecca Hall, Bella Heathcote, Connie Britton, and J.J. Field, and has a 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 82% of audiences liked it. So, Ryan, what did you think of Professor Marston?
That's great that you threw it to me first. With
If you could see the color of your cheeks right
now. It's an interesting movie. The polyamorous aspect, which it's fine, like, I respect their life choices. It was just the first time to see it in a movie. I think this is like the first time I've seen it shown, especially the more intimate moments of their life, that I was not confused, but a little uncomfortable just by myself, because I saw it by myself. I feel like if I saw it with other people, it'd be like, oh, like I'm enjoying this film. I only had two issues with it, and it meant it was the third act kind of was rushed, I feel, and I wanted more Wonder Woman. I think more the history of Wonder Woman. It kind of is put to the side more of the relationship between all three of them. Don, how about you?
Well, I agree with you in part here, Ryan. It is not what I was expecting going in, because, I expected more of the Wonder Woman story, especially given the title. But this trio of characters certainly led an interesting life, and certainly with the Marstons, their science behind the polygraph machine.
Yes.
And Dr. Marston's, and we say Dr. and Mrs. because Mrs. couldn't get her doctorate because of the social mores of the time.
Yes.
They worked on how to build this machine, and how they came to the realization of it, I thought was very clever.
Yeah, that was, yes.
It was so tied into the story. But the polyamorous side I wasn't quite expecting, and I probably wasn't as thrown by it, because I think they did it well, but I think that in the overall story, I agree with you, Ryan, that it didn't really give the backbone of where Wonder Woman kind of came from, and I'm not a big fan of that back and forth in timepiece. It's I guess you kind of had to do it here.
Yeah,
the story.
It reminded me of like The Social Network, which I'm a huge fan of, but it didn't use it the same way as like it just like quick. It's meant to go quick back and forth, and this one was, it would come and go, and then, there'd be moments that they're using like there's a scene when they show all the graphics for like the comic book and just going fast and fast. I'm like, what is this movie just took a turn?
So John, you had a tough time on the summary. What about your review of it?
Yeah, well, actually, I feel like I can describe my thoughts on the film better than I can on the summary. I was gently surprised by this. I really had no idea what it was going into it. All I really knew was like, okay, so I'm gonna understand how like Marston came up with Wonder Woman. And granted, the direction it went, I was like, oh, that's unexpected, but let's roll with it. And it was really intriguing. That relationship dynamic is something we don't really see often in mainstream films, and I thought they handled it well. I don't think it's not entirely like, you know, the strongest relationships, but you have like multiple people you're trying to work with, so giving them all like fair time and that it's not easy. And so I give the director props for that, for Angela Robinson props on that, for trying to make that work. But there's definitely a lot here at once. Just trying, you know, gotta make sure we gotta include the Wonder Woman references. We gotta include like how her character was viewed by many, and like in the imagery that was in the comics, like and how that was inspired by, you know, Marston's life to a certain extent. It was all really intriguing, and I thought the performances were good too. I thought the trio was great.
Yeah, they like their back and forth was like in the moments when they're working at the lie detector, even moments when they're just all together. The dialogue between the three was so seamlessly like, because since you're having three people, on screen who are all together, it's difficult to just have a conversation with like two people, and just having three people and like it goes like beautifully is a really good job.
And the movie that we're talking about is Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. And instead of calling us in for your viewpoint, we are here in the midst of the fall 2017 Begathon. So if you'd like to give us a call, dial 207-874-3000. That's 874-3000. Our volunteers are here ready because, yes, we are a volunteer station, and it's up to you, our audience, to help keep us on the air. And, you know, if you can't call, you want to do a donation online, go to WMPG.org, click the PayPal, and, you know, give us a call. The people personing the phones today are great. What we have for thank you gifts are great. There's a brand new t-shirt this year that's a retro microphone that's great. We also have a great box set from Thelonious Monk, but certainly you know, our phone reps can certainly help you go through the swag. But basically, a show like this, you know, we're here in the talk block because we're bracketed by, you know, news of interest, and hopefully, if nothing else, we see bad movies so you don't have to.
We've wasted our money on so many movies that I would not go see otherwise.
You know, so if we've saved you some dollars, if you'd like to send some love back, that's 874-3000. Now back to Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so overall, I like this film. I think there's a couple things that bother me. And it's interesting that you talk about the third act being rushed.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that as much as the beginning being rather clunky.
The
really?
Beginning,
I found it a bit
like
clunky.
the beginning.
Okay.
Interesting.
I don't know. I just found it just like, it was kind of just like, everything was just kind of like shoved, like, here we go, got to get this scene in. But then once it finally got going, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm interested. Maybe that was it. It was just like, okay, you know, I get it. Oh, okay, so they're not your typical people, blah, blah. I don't know. Like, the beginning I found clunky, but also, this is a little gripe of mine. So they do major jumps through time, right? The earliest is 1928, and then the farthest is 1945, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how they all look the same.
Yeah, that's true.
They jump through time, and they barely age. Maybe Luke Evans has, like, a slight gray.
No, I don't think so. He looks exactly the same.
He looks exactly, okay,
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That bothers me so much. Like, couldn't they put effort to just put a little bit of age makeup on? You make, like, a, you know, 25-year-old woman still look like a 25-year-old woman like 25 years later. That's
But I think for the Olive character, Bella Heathcote, there's a very world weariness that she portrays through her eyes in that jump in time.
That is true. Yes,
You know,
and the performances they definitely acted, but in terms of like giving the look,
yeah,
it's
the same.
It's funny when you mentioned the beginning and how like you're like, oh, introduced to like this type of relationship. I believe I'm out of the three of us, I'm the only one who knew about this part of the people about the
like,
Professor Marston.
I guess, but I didn't get into it. Yeah.
So, because my sister's a huge fan of Wonder Woman, so she has the history of Wonder Woman, and that's part of the history of Wonder Woman. So I went in knowing that, but I was expecting more of the Wonder Woman. So that's why for me, the third act, I was waiting for a Wonder Woman to show up, and then they completely it was like, this is a side thing. It was more focused on the relationship, which is fine. But when the poster and the title uses Wonder Woman in it, you're expecting like a bigger look into that point of the design and all of it. We do get a little bit of where like the
But I wonder if part of that might have been licensing.
Yeah,
because they may have only been able to portray a certain
because we don't see
portion of that.
the red, white, and blue suit. We've only seen pictures.
And
it's on DC too. All of the comics aren't from DC Comics. They're from the original comic.
The original.
Yeah.
And that gets to one of my niggling points is you have a very strong actor who's featured in such a small part, and he's not even mentioned in the top credits, and that's Oliver Platt.
Yes.
Who is a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for Oliver Platt in a film, and even for his brief time there, it was great to see that kind of gruff exterior, and also Connie Britton as the
head of the childhood.
Yeah, the
it's not the FCC.
Childhood board.
Childhood
decency board.
Yes.
Decency
like
board,
that,
and
yes.
You're talking at the part of this going through World War II,
mm-hmm.
so it's got the span of the end of the Roaring '20s into the Depression into the start of the war. So all of those aspects play part. It's not really mentioned, but kind of implied. And
mm-hmm.
to see this representation, but I love the three lead actors together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm glad I saw it. I would recommend it to a select audience who could probably deal with the narrative of this
mm-hmm.
and not the superhero part.
Well, I think people who are also fans of Wonder Woman would enjoy it because this year's the 75th anniversary of Wonder Woman. So I'm guessing that's why they also released this one. There's not a lot of press saying oh, this came out at the same time Wonder Woman came out. Well, they both came out because it's the 75th anniversary of Wonder Woman. So that's probably why they both came out.
Any closing thoughts, John?
No, I heard maybe just a quick few. Yeah, I like the film overall. It'd be hard for me to think of who I could recommend this to. Again, a select few. I say if you've heard us talk about it and the concepts that are in here, if you're interested in that, I'd say then give it a watch.
Cool.
Yeah. So Ryan, what do we got next?
We got Battle of the Sexes, another biopic. In 1973, Billie Jean King is the rising women's tennis champion. She and many of the women players decide to leave their tennis association in order to be given equal prize winning for their matches. Together, they form the Women's Tennis Association, beginning their very own matches. Elsewhere, famed tennis player and known gambler, Bobby Riggs is looking for a new hustle. He figures he should play King and make a big show called the Battle of the Sexes. When King declines, Riggs asks Margaret Court, who had just beaten King, and she accepts. Riggs is able to beat Court, pushing King to make a new offer for Riggs. King must now stand up to Bobby and prove that women should be treated equally as men on and off the court. Battle of the Sexes is directed by Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris, and is written by Simon Bayfoy, and stars Emma Stone, Steve Carell, Sarah Silverman, Bill Pullman, and Andrea Riseborough. So, Dawn, what did you think of Battle of the Sexes?
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a film, for me, that was trying to both tell a story and tried carefully, and it kind of fell a little bit on both.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have a very famous for the time sports event,
mm-hmm.
a women's rights event,
mm-hmm.
and a LGBTQ
TQ
issue that at the time couldn't be told.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have a little flavor of each,
mm-hmm.
but it was good, but it wasn't as solid as I wanted it to be. Some of the lines in this, the dialogue, I thought was really clunky, so
mm-hmm.
I couldn't buy into the characters as much. And of the, I love Emma Stone, but it was really the Steve Carell character mm-hmm. that engaged me more. And, mm-hmm. I didn't think I didn't think that would happen.
You're like Bobby Riggs.
And also seeing, actually, Sarah Silverman
was astounding.
fantastic in
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Yeah,
What'd
I
you
mean,
think,
the
John?
whole cast I thought was great. They all kind of just blended into the roles fantastically. I thought. But again, Don, I'm agreeing with you. I liked it. I didn't love it. I got really hyped on that first trailer. It was so well made. I'm like, this is gonna be great, and it works on some levels. If I don't know, I guess maybe I was also thinking in the mindset like, oh, this is also gonna be like shot like a sports film in some regards, and like really make like the match. It may seem like the match would be the main draw, but also like there's all the other things surrounding it as well. And the things surrounding it, they touch on it a bit, and that's certainly a driving point for, for Billie Jean King. But beyond that, it kind of just, the match itself is, it doesn't matter really. In terms of the movie.
Right.
It's shot in a way where it made me feel like a spectator, because it's literally shot how you would watch it on TV. And I guess I was just expecting more, like, we'd be closer in on the action, and we'd actually see Stone and Carell going back and forth, but I hate to break it to you, but they they have body doubles, so I don't know, it kind of disappointed me on that front, and I don't know, there was so much I was looking forward to in this film. It's by no means an awful film. I'm making it sound like it's the worst thing on the planet. It is certainly not. There's a lot to like about this. Ryan,
I feel like I'm
what did
watching
you
a tennis
think?
match right now.
Ryan's head's bobbing like a tennis match, and the tennis match that we're talking about is Battle of the Sexes, here on Cinema Hits and Misses on WMPG. And if you want to call for us for Begathon at 207-874-3000, or click the donate button on WMPG.com. Our volunteers are here ready to take your call with a litany of thank you gifts. And like I said earlier, the new t-shirt design, fantastic. Baseball cap. Again, that's 874-3000. We thank you for your support. Go back to Ryan with Battle of the Sexes.
I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I really liked every point that John said. I really enjoyed. The way that the tennis match looked reminded me of Moneyball, where in Moneyball, the story about the Oakland Athletics team, what they would do during the playoff season is that they would cut between the actors playing and the actual footage. So it felt like you would have this nice contrast, and I get really into it, that the fight at the end, the match at the end, that it felt like I was, as a spectator, which actually made me invested more into it, because I feel that if it was really up close, yes, you'd have like the tension building, but I think for this one, you're kind of enjoying the match and seeing it, and they did I loved how they added like a 70s aesthetic to this movie, where the movie opens up with like the 70s version of Fox Searchlight, which looks really cool, and it's shot on film, or like they added a film aesthetic, so it kind of like looks older, and I really like Steve Carell's Bobby Riggs. Emma Stone looked like, the makeup on her, like she looked like a lot like Billie Jean King, which was really cool. And Sarah Silverman, what I liked, the directors who did this movie did Little Miss Sunshine, so they worked with Steve Carell before, but they also threw a lot of like other comedians in this movie that I wasn't like, I didn't think of, like Sarah Silverman, Fred Armisen's in it, Tom Kenny, who, if people who don't know, he's the voice of like SpongeBob and a lot of other voiceover work. He has like a prominent role in the movie, and I was like, wow, that's Tom Kenny. Good job for Tom Kenny.
Well, and Alan Cummings.
Yes, and Alan Cummings.
And Bill Pullman, who plays the
another president.
Yeah, another president of the tennis league. So, yeah, seeing that setup of why the women left the league.
Yes.
I mean, the equality in pay. I love that. The sports shots, not as engaging as I'd hoped, but I think I'm with Ryan that I liked some of the overhead shots. Just the physicality of what these two did. I'm not a tennis player, but to see them chase each other across the court, so that you kind of needed those long shots for. Again, it's not as engaging as other sports films, because I like other sports films. I mean, I'll watch Hoosiers anytime it's on. But again, I think it was more the character study that faltered for me.
Okay.
That I didn't get an engage. Yeah, she did that, but this was a champion of the time, and I didn't feel that power. So
I get that. I'm just looking through my list here. Here's a question for both of you. Was Riggs' son important at all to the story?
Which son? The one
the older one.
He seemed like he was in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened in their real dynamics, but it sounded like Riggs was not nice to his family at times.
Mm-hmm.
And in the film, there's a, oh, I need you when I need you,
mm-hmm.
and then you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the character felt like a throwaway.
Yeah, he gets introduced, goes away for a while, and then there's like this impactful scene where he just like leaves.
Well,
or even then, hold on, I'm gonna put air quotes around impactful because it really didn't have any impact at all.
Well, I think he was in more, like he was in a little bit at the beginning, and then later on when Bobby's getting quote unquote training for the match, you see him more, and you see his son, who at the beginning he feels he should be helping his dad, like you mentioned, like I need you when I need you, and I think that moment you're talking about is his realization that he doesn't have to do that. I think the moments that he's in it is like him trying to support his dad, and then the realization that he's like, oh yeah, I don't have to do this. You know what? I just I'll root from the sidelines instead of watching you not. Like he wants to support his dad, but then he realizes his dad doesn't care.
Yeah, and that's a little bit sad. And so Battle of the Sexes kind of takes a multiple layer here. The title, because it was a man versus woman on the tennis court.
Mm-hmm.
How men and women deal with their personal relationships, and Battle of the Sexes on the sports field.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they were clever with the title. And, I'm glad I saw it because I think this is one that will likely be recognized at award season.
I think
if they don't nominate Sarah for supporting actress on this one, I think she'd be robbed.
I really hope, and there's just a scene at the end with Emma Stone that's very emotional, and I'm watching that. I really want her just to get another Oscar nomination, because this one, even though I love La La Land and I think she did really well in it, I think this one she would, between the two, she would win over La La Land, because that ending scene, you're just like, oh yeah, that's why she's in this movie.
Yeah. And we want to break in here because someone heard our ask. We want to thank Scott from Kennybunk. He dialed into the 874-3000 and talked to our volunteers. Scott, thank you. Hope we're helping you save some money on films, because this is what we love to do, and we like to share it with you. So again, Scott from Kennybunk, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of some closing thoughts on the film. Yeah, I mean, overall, I liked the film. I thought it was fine. I'm glad I saw it. Would I see it again, though? That's kind of hard to say. And maybe... I don't know. Maybe just because I was so hyped up with with that trailer, and I was expecting more. And even as I was watching the film, I was envisioning, because I didn't know anything about the event. I mean, I knew it happened, but that was it. And I actually saw this with my mother too, because she was very young when that event happened. She was intrigued by that, and even then, she and I kind of were on the same level. We're just like, it was fine, like with a shoulder shrug.
Yeah, they did great on creating. Kind of some of the shot-for-shots that when the ladies balked tradition, and instead of the white tennis dresses, they brought in color.
Yep.
And for Bobby Riggs, who kind of did a Burt Reynolds and posed
nude.
Yeah, except for his trophy.
Yes.
So that was fun. And one of the things that we generally do when we talk about our films, and I think you mentioned it, John, will you see it again? Probably not, or at least not pay to see it again. If it's on for me on a cable, what have you,
I might get it on DVD.
I like the directors. For our audience, this one, of the two, I'm glad I saw Professor Marston in the theater. I think I got enveloped a little bit more in the culture. For me, I was geeking on the lighting and the silhouettes and what have you. For this one, for Battle of the Sexes, it's like, I can wait to watch it at home. I'm glad I saw it. I think it's important to see, but it wasn't a rush out and see that I would. What do you guys think for recommendations?
I would recommend Battle of the Sexes over Professor Marston, because I think for a wider audience, because both of them are historical. significant, and this one you have a large cast, and like definitely like Sarah Silverman and the supporting cast are really great. So I would choose to go see that one. I won't see it again in theaters, but I might get it because I am a fan of the directors, and I'm glad to see this, like, their follow up to Little Miss Sunshine. Yeah.
John?
You know, I'd recommend both. They both have their own merits. But the problem is, it's, you know, Marston really has an audience. Like, it's hard for me to recommend it to so many people. But if you're ambitious and willing to give any film a shot, I think it might be worth your while. I went in not knowing anything and found myself genuinely surprised. And Ballad of Sexes, I think you'll be entertained. I think that's definitely where its strongest point is. I don't know if you two agree with me on that, but
Yeah, it's entertaining, yeah.
like, you'll have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a waste of money here at all.
No.
So, again, since we're not wasting your money, 874-3000, that's 207-874-3000. Volunteers are waiting for you. We're going to sign off here on Cinema Hits and Misses. This is Dawn.
Ryan.
And John.
And we're going to give the airways over to Justine Between the Notes. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with at least a thriller.
Yes.